Aloha Yang Gang, Big Island, Hawaii. Today's update, Yang Gang, Big Island. We need a meeting space, January 5th. I've contacted a couple people in Hilo, a couple people in Kona, and one person in Waimea. I think the idea is we're going to need one central space. It's coming up in 4 days. If nothing else, I'm just going to pick a pavilion that's centrally located in Hilo and put the word out there, and I'll get it on Mobilize so those who actually go to the website, Yang.2020, that are familiar with Andrew Yang, can find something near us. The purpose of the meeting is to find out how many people there are on the island, who's interested, what resources we have, where canvassing would be most effective. Our primaries are April 4th, which means it would be great to go around and see if people are registered to vote. Speaking of that, go to vote411.org. Get registered to vote. All right, covering the 31st and January 1st. We've got a couple videos in the description. All these videos are Andrew Yang related campaign. Some have policies, some have debates, some have just interesting things. I found a couple interesting ones I included in the description today from new YouTube channels. Alrighty, in addition, go to Yang Prints, print out any flyers and posters that you might need to support Andrew Yang. These are great when canvassing and going around and asking people what they would do with $1,000 each month for the rest of their life, the freedom dividend. And as always, donate, donate, donate. The New Year FEC deadline was basically last night, and we were shooting for, I believe at the beginning, 3 mil. They upped the challenge to 3.5, and the Yang campaign and all the Yang Gang and everybody who contributed had over 1 million donations, and it went to something like a little over $4 million. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Hashtag poll the people. Let's get polls that actually represent what's going on with all the candidates, not just the top 4 or 5. And then lastly, swag. If you want it, you could go to Yang Swag Angel. If you can't afford it, go to there, yangswagangel.com. If you want a couple pieces and you just can't afford it, put it in there. Maybe somebody will pick up your description, buy that gear for you, and send it on out. If you do have money, go to the stores, buy that merch, and make sure you represent. It's awesome. Somebody definitely will ask you what math means. Definitely. Alrighty, moving on. So, the first video I have on here is from Andrew Q&A. It's cool. Talks about NIMBY, not in my backyard. Talks about how if you put the money in people's hands and you don't charge overly amounts for money for rent in neighborhoods that have been gentrified, you will have a flow of people come back into those places and populate and spend their money. And if you have $1,000, that's capitalism that's circulating in a small area. He has a guy on that's asked Andrew Yang a question. The kid's not even old enough to vote yet. His name is ELLIS. Huge shout out to the kid. He asked these crazy awesome questions at 22. I would say go there at the 22 mark and watch just for that if you need an Andrew Q&A. Moving on, Detective Lewis. He chats about Yang's goals. At the 2-minute mark, he talks about Google Documents, which basically is tracking the monetary donations and seeing how the money is coming in and where it goes, and then what goes on with the fundraising and how it works out. At 4:30, he talks about the 1 million contributions. I actually saw the video where Zach comes in and he hands Andrew while speaking to a group of people. He's like, oh, by the way, I just hit 1 million contributions. It's very cool. Moving on, The Hill. Andrew challenges the DNC. I know this is a couple days old, but The Hill is an amazing channel. They go through a crystal ball, cigar. They go through these amazing interviews and have these panels, which are, they're non-biased. They discuss everything, and if somebody says something off, they call it for what it is. It's a great resource. Go to The Hill, watch any video they have. It's not too liberal. It's also good for you conservatives out there on the island. There are generally a couple of The Hill's links in my videos. Our videos. Yang Gang Christians. He talks about how the M4A reflects the Christian values. Let's see here. At 3:45, he talks about abundance versus scarcity, which is basically a fear tactic that's been used by the church. It's been used by governments, and it's been currently deployed in our own frame of thinking. There is always enough. We're preaching scarcity when there's abundance. It just depends on what someone's willing to do to get that. M4A 17, he talks about policies, how policy inadvertently affects poverty. And then at 20, he gives a warning and not ominous, but he just talks about how his beliefs and his religion, Christianity, talks about the moral differences between legislating healthcare for all and the implications that it has if you're trying to push it like either Mr. Buttigieg or Mr. Biden in that capacity, M4A. Not so much Warner Sanders, because their M4A should be considered mandatory M4A, considering Yang's approach basically gives the individuals the choice, the people the choice, and if we have the universal basic income plus the Medicare for all, where we separate our jobs from our health care, meaning our jobs no longer have to deal with health care. We could choose to go anywhere with our $1,000 and work any type of job anywhere. It means it's movable. It's awesome, liquid, transferable income. Let's see, Patrick Kage, she was in Iowa and she was talking to Republican voters. Very interesting. Because this is a day or so old, I got the lowdown on it. She talked to a conservative in Iowa and then met him when she flew out to do canvassing. How cool is that? Check out her channel to see her insight on that. Tom on Nerds for Yang breaks down the favorability rating. It looks like the youth vote and the African American vote is still very small, but it's greater for Andrew Yang than any other candidate right now in the Democratic debate. That is excluding the know of poll, which basically talks to people if they know of the candidate. That's what that pertains to. The other ones, not so much. The most recognition, I do believe, was Biden and Buttigieg. Let's see. Yang has the strongest percentage where Hillary Clinton failed in 2016. Look it up. Wherever she failed, that's where Yang's the strongest. All right. And then as far as... All right, moving on to January 1st. January 1st. Also in the descriptions, check out the links. Andrew today is in Nashville, and he was speaking to a group of people. In 11:45 to 1:15, he's in Arbor Rest. 2:30 to 4 p.m. today, he's in Lebanon Salt Hill. And then 5 to 6 o'clock tonight, he's in Keenan. So if you go right now, because it's around noon on the islands, if you go right now, you might be able to catch the tail end of Zach and Matt doing the live broadcast on that. And it's always great to watch it live with the energy that Andrew brings to it. And the Q&A at the end generally does. It's wonderful because it's real. It's not staged. It's not fake. There's nobody calling anybody fat. It's awesome. All right. That's the Twitter. Crowds for the Andrew Yang events today are overwhelming. Andrew even posted in Twitter the first, second, third, or fourth time that he went there, the crowds weren't that big. It was just normal for a crowd. Now there's people but people are pushing to get into the door to see him, to capture a glimpse of the magic as it happens. Let's see, Reddit. There was a rant and a cry at Hot Ones. Apparently somebody thought that we couldn't raise the 3.5 that we challenged it, and they said they're tired of people ranting and raving and bombarding their Twitter and Facebook. Well, I guess the obvious answer and question to that is if you go on a social platform media and everybody's talking about Yang and the media isn't, there is something definitely wrong. Hashtag media blackout. Hashtag poll the people. All right. There's a lone rider at the Rose Bowl parade with an Andrew Yang sign. It was awesome. Somebody totally panned in on that one person. Way to represent. Nerds for Yang also got highlighted on the Reddit feeds because of his contrast to the 538 podcast. Obviously, they didn't do any research, don't quite understand M. Frey, and are going out of their way to objectively leave somebody out who is in the debate who happens to be a person of color, non-white. Long story short, you can't even bring up the subject and talk about Yang rather than talking about Harris, Booker, Gaddy. That means that something is inherently wrong with your media coverage and what journalism is supposed to be today. All the descriptions and links that I put in this description link comments below is basically geared and aimed towards getting the voters on the island informed about what democracy looks like and what it could be like. Let's see here. Andrew's book made the New York Times bestsellers list. I think that's amazing. Let's see here. And his fourth quarter goals grew 50% from third quarter, meaning more people know about Andrew Yang. 50% more people donated in fourth quarter rather than third quarter. I think that's amazing as well. Let's see. Ken Jeong, comedian. He was in The Community, and if I had to guess, I think he was in the Hangover series movies. Really funny guy. Check him out. He has Twitter feed as well, and Google his name. He is now on the Yang Gang, baby. Zach and Mac, as I said, from the YouTube, have the political opening of The Office today. I'd behoove you to check that out. It's really interesting to watch an Office open because I don't know if I've ever seen any other Office open besides maybe 5 or 10 people clapping and congrats. Here it's like a small party and it's a liberation of finding other people that share the same sort of ideals that you do. It's interesting. Also, Matt and Matt put out a video about CNN's explanation of the DNC polls. Andrew had over 1 million contributions, and they're still really not covering. What he's talking about is the jobs and reality. We cannot bring back the jobs of the 80s and 90s. It is no longer going to happen. Technology has moved too far, and if people don't understand the reason why Donald Trump was elected and was due to automation rather than some other hocus pocus they're pulling up, then we have an easier and a better chance of connecting with somebody when we're not assaulting their values and their beliefs. If you're just talking about basic facts, 4 million jobs had been lost. 4 million jobs to whatever will be lost as technology gets greater. AI will take over call centers, it will take over truckers, it will take over jobs that we take for granted right now. And if you go to a job that is paying less than $15 an hour and you walk in to get a burger and there's now a kiosk where there used to be somebody working, where is that person? What money are they now making, and do they have enough to afford that burger or those shoes or whatever if nobody has that capital? Basically, it's talking about Andrew's giving a platform with the UBI so people can adapt with before there is a greater inequality divide. All right, moving on. Nerds for Yang. Hello, nerds! Tom Stack talking about his videos. He wants to get them translated into Spanish. I would say contact Tom on the comment section if you speak Spanish and you would like to help translate his videos into Spanish for the Spanish-speaking community. I would say that shouldn't even stop at Spanish-speaking. It should be Portuguese, Chinese, Mandarin, Cantonese, anything you can speak. Maybe give a comment to Tom in any of his videos. He might be able to get in contact and do some dub-overs. At 9-minute mark, he breaks down Bloomberg money stats. At 13 minutes, he breaks down Tom Steyer. Why isn't Tom Steyer just yanging? Why isn't Tom Yang gang? That would be amazing to happen. Well, think of that bankroll and donation. Think of his policies, too, and the way he thinks. Tom Steyer is a pretty smart man. My opinion, though. 15 minutes in. Quality of the January debates. To qualify for those, you need 225,000 donors, which we've made, and then there's one of two ways that Andrew can make that debate on January. One way is to get two polls at 7% or 4 polls at 5%, meaning we need polls. Hashtag poll the people. There aren't enough polls that the DNC is doing to get Andrew on that stage. We need to get the polls. At 23 minutes, he talked about how it's unreasonable for the third quarter debates and in fourth quarter debates when there's not a person of color on stage. Actually called out the DNC, and he's calling out MSNBC on things that they're biased on, and everybody's putting him down as if there's some sort of agenda behind it. The agenda's not behind him and his campaign. The agenda should be behind democracy and freedom and what we need. 25-minute mark. Polling of those who know about Andrew and how that works out. The youth vote, the Asian Americans, the African Americans. At 31, talks about Google's trends. Google Trends is really interesting if you've never been there. Type in words, see how many people are looking that up on Google. It's a great way to track things, like if, type in Andrew Yang and type in UBI. We'll see how many times those two have been talked about on the internet since its creation and daily. 38 in the video. Everybody's picking on Joe. All these people show up to these debates, and rather than having clear and conscious awesome energy like Andrew Yang has, he's got a person like in the crowd that asks them some leading or awkward question about Hunter Biden, and then goes into further detail. They'll be like, get that guy out of there, and then Joe will walk over and somebody else will ask another question and yell. This just demonstrates that people at these rallies want information. If you're not going to tell the truth and talk about this information and finally put things to rest, then there's no point for you to be running. It's time to go to bed, buddy. 38, they're picking on Joe. 42, they talk about Google Trends again. Obviously, Tom had not heard about this. I heard about it when it happened. Joe Biden is talking to a group of children. Joe Biden is talking with a group of children to a group of adults, and while he's talking, he puts his arm around this little girl, and she shrugs him off, and then he starts talking about roaches and when he was a lifeguard, people rubbing his hair when he was at the pool, and it just, his rambles go off into nowhere, and I can't imagine these debates being hosted with questions that have significance, and somebody's able to just ramble about what they did in a previous administration, and then they can ramble about things that they want to do in the future when there's really no data or backing your statistics. It's just interesting. That's at 42. And at 44, it talks about the Google Trends is talking about stations covering Yang and just not giving acknowledgement, and how that trend is starting to change in comparison to each candidate. That's at 44. And then 48, at the end of Tom's video, they just go into Q&A, which is also great. Lots of good stuff. And then lastly, PSP, Problem Solver Politics, Cody and Cardin. Hey, everybody. talk about all the candidates that have dropped out. Now, I didn't do minute by minute like notes because there's a lot of stuff going on. They got a little chatty, but it's funny to watch their commentary and how they felt then and how they feel now. Long story short, all the other candidates that everybody in 2015 thought would be runners, like Hickenlooper, Klobuchar's still there. Who else? But DeBazio. Who else? There's a couple people that didn't even make like the first debate that were out. So long story short, all those people are politicians. All those people have money. All those people have backers. All those people have these things that are going for them, and they are gone. Andrew Yang is still here. So Big Island, if you want to get involved, go to Yang Gang Hawaii Big Island at Gmail. Drop an email to get involved, or leave questions or comments below, and we will try and get to you. Other than that, go to the campaign at yang2020.com, type in your area code, and get involved. All the policies you need to read are there. Go out and ask questions, and then search for us. Look at this channel for January 5th meeting. Come and get involved. We're going to be talking about what we're going to be doing, making signage, holding events, doing Pledge for Humanity events, doing math class, and then inevitably getting people registered to vote, going door-to-door canvassing and talking face-to-face about issues that matter. Let's see here. I do believe that is all for today. There's a couple other videos I put down in the description of first-time channels that I came upon, and a quick shout-out to Triple Cup Chuck Synergy. Crazy fun video. I watched it in speed 2 times because when I'm going through the massive amount of videos I do in the morning, I have to go through it 2 by 2 on that speed, or else I'll never get through it. Long story short, when I got to his video, he was talking as fast as I do in normal speed, and it was just, but the things he was throwing at it, the music was just great. Anyway, it's very entertaining. As always, if you like this stuff and you like the updates, please comment in the section below on what we can do better and what we can cater towards you. It's a brand new year. We want to give us something on the Big Island that we can grab onto. As I've said it before, and I'll say it again, Iowa, once everybody knows, February 2nd, at least we will have a foundation for people on the Big Island to come together for a big old Yang hug. Anywho, Yang Gang Hawaii Big Island at gmail.com. Subscribe to this channel, and Happy New Year. Aloha, Yang Gang.